and this is actually my final semester. And afterwards, I will be continuing with the Nrcs. That's how much I've enjoyed it. But I am speaking from an engineering perspective. I'm not sure if everyone out there is an engineer or not, but a lot of it does correlate if you're not an engineer of just the exact projects and jobs that we do. So I've got to work on quite a bit of stuff here in the Fresno office, as well as going out to Madera office and Visalia office. So a big part of what I've had to work on is irrigation systems for a lot of like almond farms, as well as just other types of farms. But I also have gotten to work on reservoirs, and I got to do some surveying with that, as well as work with dairies and dairy digesters, which are very, very large and fun projects to actually see, and just other rangeland projects as well. And so with that being said, though, I think my favorite part that I didn't quite expect going into this internship is actually working with the farmers or working with like the dairymen, for example. And so just being able to really establish those connections with the people actually in the field is something that I've thoroughly enjoyed. And also just being able to go out in the field, for example, not a lot of jobs, at least in the engineering field, you'll actually be able to do that. And so with this one, it's one of those things where I get to go out into the field, almost every day, and I've thoroughly enjoyed that aspect of it. So I don't know, Dave, is there some more that you want me to talk about here?
No, I mean, it's open. There's a lot that I can say about the program, and I can get into that, and take off from there too. So, and or not, I guess, I don't know if Alicia joined in or not. So,
she hasn't yet. We're still waiting for her to join in. So okay. Yeah, so just feel free to take it away, Dave.
Okay, if she does, let me know. And people watching this, if you see me look up like this, where my eyeballs look like I'm looking off camera, it's because I have two screens, and the bigger one up here is kind of where I'm playing from. So I'll try to be somewhat cordial in the sense that I make eye contact, even though we are virtual. So okay, so NRCS is, I'll start out with this PowerPoint. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's way too long, but NRCS is a Natural Resources Conservation Service. As it says on the screen, that's my name there, and I am the area engineer. Oh, wait, am I sharing this now?
No, we can't see it.
Oh my goodness, see how I am? Zoom is because I am a teams guy, but that's okay. I'll get it here. There we go. This one. How about now? We getting closer?
Yes. Now we can see your screen, Dave.
Okay. So that's the NRCS. That's me, area engineer. The objective or the mission of the NRCS is to help people help the land, improving water quality, working on soil erosion, enhancing wildlife habitat, anything to do with natural resources. So whether it's soil, water, air, plants, animals, energy production, and then there's a human aspect because humans mess things up. We come back and fix them. So the people we serve are private landowners, nonprofit organizations, and other agencies. The area I cover is what we call Area 3, the green and kind of a light purple. There's 12 offices. I won't get into that too much, but you can see there's a spread of Sierra Nevadas as well as Central Valley, so pretty good variety. The state's busted up into 4 areas, and there's some rhyme or reason to it, even though it doesn't look like it by looking at the map.
Dave, I'm still looking at your title page. Sorry.
You're kidding me. Okay, well, thanks for letting me know that. Did that advance or not?
Now you got to click on your PowerPoint, Dave, like, the view.
Yeah, but I did that. What I'm wondering is if I shared the wrong part.
Yeah, we're looking at the second one now.
You are, okay. Okay, so I talked about that. And there comes a third one, the map of the area that I cover. Derek covered the typical duties for an engineer. You see a number of them listed there, doing designs and drawings, surveying, presentations like this, training new engineers. Type of work we do focuses on, again, the acronym SWAPA: soil, water, air, plants, animals. But then as it relates to that, those natural resource concerns, erosion control, water quality, stream and wetland restoration, special projects, emergency work. So for anybody that's on here, I guess no matter if they're an engineer or range con or range science or plant science, animal science, biologist, some of this will apply. So we do projects related to erosion control. There's some pictures here of stuff. This is a access road, and on the top left, and then in the bottom right is a they're putting a water bar in to deflect water off the road. Armored outlets and armored roads with gravel or rock. Erosion control. This was a flood where it came over the top of the bridge and the road, and you can see in the top picture there's a lot of erosion there, and then in the bottom picture after the fact, we're looking basically into the mouth of the bridge or culvert that you see on that top photo. We're 90 degrees and then downstream looking back up. So we've worked on gully stabilization, more so on the coast. Down, you see a green kind of a worm or snake looking area down in the bottom. That's where the gully was. And I think this shows the before. The before is top left, the during on the right, and the after on the bottom. The other picture was an aerial from a drone or something like that. Irrigation, we do a lot of stuff with irrigation and water reuse, doing some with drainage. Nutrient management is a big part of our work. Buffers, livestock watering facilities. Again, this is IWM and irrigation water management, where she's putting these cans out on the row here to try to take measurements for different emitters along these strawberry plants. Or this one here, they're using buckets. These are different kind of sprinklers, and these are drippers and these are impact sprinklers. And so they got them laid out in a grid, and they're trying to see from one sprinkler to the next, even though it's on a different line, what is the coverage and how much water is it being uniformly applied across that grid. So designing irrigation systems, which this is something I designed many years ago, very basic system for different plots of vegetable crops. We work with different types of irrigation, the drip like here, this is in a nursery, and this is growing alfalfa that happens to be a side roll system, similar to a center pivot, but it doesn't pivot, it just rolls sideways. This is a project for drainage. We're leaching salts. This is a full square mile or 640 acres of land. And we were working on a project to reuse salt water coming out of here from 3 sections or quarter sections, 160 acres in each of these, returning that out of the drains for these in these sumps to this point, and then using that to irrigate this field, which is more salt tolerant crops. In doing so, we're reducing the volume of water and increasing the concentration of the salt in the water, so there's less to be treated at the end. That project has been kind of on hold for a number of years, but mainly because the technology hit a block where it's expensive to do the last part of it. So water reuse, these are ponds on the down slope end of the field where they catch any runoff, and then they would pump it back up to the upper ends of the field. This is some not evap ponds. This is water storage reservoirs in Southern California at a nursery. This one here is for the runoff water. They run it through a reverse osmosis machine, which treats it to basically drinking water standards, and it comes back into this pond. This pond is covered because obviously the value of the water here coming as runoff versus the value of the water here that's been cleaned up and can be used to irrigate back with. They don't want this evaporating. This is a concrete line ditch, a machine that's cutting the trench for it, and then they line this with concrete to convey water. These are all types of projects that we work on. This project is at Fresno State, back at the dairy. We helped with building some non-mechanical separators. It's gravity type separators here for the wastewater coming out of the barns. So they could scoop it out with a skid steer. This is during construction. And then after it's went through here, the water can go over a separator like this to get the other solids out. Buffers, this is more coastal area, Salinas, Monterey. They put buffers in to keep the soil from running off of these fields and directly into the water courses that then goes into the ocean. So the buffer here, the idea is that we plant maybe native species, something that attracts wildlife and beneficial insects. And then it also traps sediment that runs off here in this tall grassy area before it goes over into the water area. Stock water systems, Derek mentioned he worked on some of these. This is a tank and a trough. There's pipelines associated with to get, and the idea here is to get water better distributed up in the Sierra Nevadas for guys grazing livestock. So as engineers, we design these. As a soil conservationist, you might help plan it, looking at other resource concerns or how often these are needed. You might look at, the biologist type might look at, you know, what T&E species are out there, what we need to avoid. We have archaeologists that are concerned about cultural resources and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of different disciplines. Animal science people would be talking to the cattlemen about, you know, maybe it's rotational grazing to keep the forage from being overgrazed and therefore not being as erosive. It's a wetland restoration project, and this one is out of state, but it's typical of what we might do to take what would be farmland and turn some of it back into wetland like it historically was for wildlife benefits. And sometimes these are for water. A wetland can treat waters, but we don't necessarily get involved with that. That's more scientific than we tend to go after. There's a benefit, but we don't really endorse people putting stormwater into them and stuff just to have it cleaned up. This is a picture of a culvert that was the stream bottom is not here anymore. The stream bottom's down here. So they put a new culvert in to lower it so fish could make passage through here. And when they did it, they buried part of the culvert so that the bottom of the culvert looks like it was just a natural stream. So the fish would go through it. This is a low water crossing on a stream. And the idea is if this road isn't heavily rocked, then as you drive through it, you loosen sediment and the sediment goes downstream. So there's a couple different options. One, you can put concrete in to harden that surface. But in this case down here, they're putting a bridge in to get the vehicle traffic up and out of the water. The other thing is when cars go through this, it could come up and draw oils off the bottom of the vehicle. Emergency work, we work after the fire. We don't fight them, we work after the fire. to go out and make recommendations on how to treat now what has been a devastated landscape. Look at the resource concerns, whether it's what to seed, controlling the erosion. This is a trash rack to control excessive boulders from running off. These rocks are not what it caught. These are rocks that as the water comes, it's going from left to right, topples over, and these are armor to keep it from eroding. So you kind of see some common themes where everything's about stopping or preventing erosion. This is in Southern California. Obviously, this is bigger than, this challenge of landslide, and it's bigger than what man can generally stop. There's ways that they can attempt, but it's very expensive. So sometimes what we do is we come in and maybe when it's in this stage where it's not a landslide yet, put in some things to drain and or divert flows coming off the hills. This is in Tulare County. It's a levee that busted in 1997. It flooded out 3 underpasses for Highway 99 in early March. We came back and put a levee up and lined it with rock under emergency program. Similar thing here. This is before and after. This is down in Ventura County, Santa Paula Airport, I think this is. And so erosion came, the stream blew out this section here and it eroded off the edge of the runway. Well, then they came back and armored it, and you see they got it put back. So flood control projects, we don't do a lot of those up here. Some of the benefits, mobile. If you're mobile being that you're willing to move around and do things. I know Derek has aspirations of maybe trying to work in a different part of the state. He grew up just east of Fresno here, and he's looking at possibly working in other parts of the state as he gets going in his career. And so that's definitely a possibility. The more flexible you are in moving about, the more potential in climbing and getting more pay and more important or more responsible positions. Your work schedule is flexible now more than ever with COVID. Most of our people telework the majority of the time. They come in only when they have to go out to visit with clients in the field. I'm not most people. I come in almost every day, and I go to the field only sometimes. So, but you work with a lot of other disciplines, and a lot of there's soil scientists and geologists, biologists, ecologists, natural resource majors. There's engineers, cultural resources people, archaeologists. So sometimes hydrologists. A lot of different things. A lot of the training we have, of course, now it's online, but you get paid while you're doing the training. In the event that you need to travel for that or for work, that's paid. And you get bonuses, and they're not like real grandiose, but you do get bonuses. So we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of maybe what you folks are interested in. For right now, your students in full-time employment won't happen per se as a full-time employee, but as an intern, if you were to sign up for one of these vacancies we have and apply for, our program is called the Pathways Program. Notice that these websites are the same. USAjobs.gov is where you go to get that information. And I think at this point, I want to switch over to some PDF things that I have going. So let's see. Tell me if you can see any of these, Derek.
No, we can't see it, Dave.
Oh, new share.
Yeah.
Okay. Which one was I on? Yeah, okay. So on USA Jobs, they're going to be announced, and I haven't really. I can avail these to earn on to post them or whatnot. Again, I'm not familiar with doing it here on Teams. I know we can just post it in the chat, and I'm sure that it can be done. I'm just not familiar with that. But as you go through the job announcement on USA Jobs, and again, it's usajobs.gov, obviously you're going to focus on what the position is, the series and grade. So the federal government pays, the series is based on the discipline. So like Derek and I are in the 810 civil engineering series. There are 457s are what we would call our soil conservationists. They're natural resource majors, plant science, soil science, biology, sometimes environmental science. You get into some of those. So there's different, but it'll say when the announcement comes out, it'll say what series and what grade, and the grade is the pay level. And then there'll be a description of all the kinds of things that you do. Like I was saying here, it says a 318 is a secretary position, and a 1320 is a chemist. So a lot of the jobs have split levels where it's a GS 1112 or 911, and all that means is after you've worked 1 year as the 11, if you're performing your duties, you're going to get promoted automatically to the 12 without competition. And then within that grade, there are, I guess, time marks or whatever. Every few years, starting out, it's every year you get a bump, and then pay, and then eventually it goes down to every other year, and then every 3 years. So and then you get like me and you're maxed out, and that's just the way it is. So there is promotion potential. A lot of that is tied to your experiences that you gain as you go. There is also your willingness to try new things or to go new places and do different things. The announcement for the job is going to say whether it's permanent or part-time, or in the case of a pathway student, it'll say intermittent probably, but and then the location. So obviously there's an announcement number, but the opening and closing dates, like today, Hernan was mentioning it, today's the closing date for the pathways program. So the closing dates, you need to keep track of. It's better to try to get your application in at the beginning of these open and close dates, especially if it's a situation where you think a lot of people are going to be applying, because if we get 50 or 100, at some point they may just chop it off and say the ones that are in are the ones we're going to look through, and if we find qualified people, we'll stop there. I've heard of that being done. I don't know how much they broadcast that, but to work for the federal government, you have to be a U.S. citizen. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Then it'll go into some of your duties, qualifications, and what you need to do to apply, and so forth, and qualifications. So that one is one of the files. Let's go to another one. That's about resumes. Yeah, we'll do this. Can you see the most effective resumes now?
Yes.
Okay. So on your screen, is it showing it cut off over here?
No.
Huh?
No.
Okay, that's just my setup. Okay, so in putting a resume together, everybody's got a different take on it. To me, being a hiring manager that's hired a lot of people, I wouldn't say hundreds, but 20, 30 people over the years, there's certain things I look for. Obviously, you should have grammatical errors fixed or corrected. You should have your sentences make sense, have a friend or a professor or somebody like Hernan read it over, or Juan, to look for some things that maybe an outsider would see and say, this doesn't make sense. But as you get going on it, you know, as it relates to your past or to the job you're applying for, you would look at your past experiences and try to match out of your past experiences some of the key words. And some of those keywords are going to show up when you go into the announcement that says qualification. So if it says you need to be able to paint a barn, being a plumber isn't going to do you much good. It may show that you've worked and that you're responsible and independent, you know, taking care of things, making sure they get done, but it doesn't say anything about your ability to paint. So you got to look for what the keywords are. And sometimes that's the difference of having those keywords in there when they go through your resume, is the difference between whether or not you're going to be deemed qualified. So, you know, to able to work on a ladder for hours at a time. Well, if you think about a painter, maybe that's something that they would need to do. But if that's not some of the key words, that may not gain you much credibility in terms of being one of the better qualified people. So you need to look over the vacancy announcement closely to make sure you're not forgetting things. We've had people that leave out some of the required submittals, whether it's a transcript or a resume, or in the case of not necessarily a student applying for a job, but for a federal employee applying for a job, your last performance appraisal, not sometimes, they almost always want that. So you got to make sure that you do that. Here's another one, be concise. So as far as I'm concerned, no matter who you are, what you've done, especially as a student coming out of college, you should be able to tell that in probably a couple pages max. Sometimes I get thrown off by a one-page resume because there's just not much there. It's and maybe the person doesn't have a lot to say, but at a point where you still have the ability to, you need to get job experience that's relevant to your discipline. So working at a shoe store or a fast food restaurant or something is better than sitting back and doing nothing. It shows you have initiative, but it doesn't do much to say that you're a plant scientist or a biologist. Working in an internship and our internships are paid. I'm finding that not all internships are. Our internships are paid. We'll get into some of the structure of that in a little bit. Having that knowledge and kind of knowing your way around the computer system, the acronyms, the forms, the spreadsheets, and all those kind of things, it's a bonus, and you can get that while you're going to school. The other thing, Derek can attest to this, you know, when you're learning things, and of course Derek came to us in his last semester, but so maybe not so much, but I believe that he sees a student that's an intern with us would see the schooling and the work come together. This is why the professor said that, or, oh, now I can make correlations to what I learned in the classroom with what I'm doing, or I see how it fits together. And so there's it's hard to really put enough importance or just to emphasize enough the importance of that. It doesn't mean you're not going to get a job. It just means having that, the shoe's going to fit way better and feel much better in terms of, you know, having some background experience that makes your schoolwork come to life. It also, for people that are going back to school after they've worked a summer with us, makes it more enjoyable because they're looking for ways that things in class can be applied back to what they learned at the job. So it goes both ways. So be concise. The fact that you know, a lot of times some of these things say list the last 10 years of employment, and that's fine. But you don't need to elaborate a bunch on a job for being a forester or a biologist or something. You don't need to be elaborating a bunch on the fact that you was a nanny or cleaned houses or mowed grass or something like that. You can put it down, but it's not the big thing we're reaching for. You know, this resume, what most people don't know is for federal jobs, you may or may not get an interview. You probably get an interview, but you're not going to get an in-person interview. And if we do it over Team or Zoom, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Usually it's just over the phone. There's no video. So, and that's okay. Yeah, I mean, I can't look at you and prejudge you to say that, oh, this person, you know, doesn't look, they're all made up with makeup and they don't look like they'd ever want to go out into the field and get dirty, you know, with shovels and different hand tools. Well, you just got to know what you're getting into. But the sales pitch part of it is, don't be nervous in an interview and so forth, because it's your story, it's your life. Tell your story. Nobody knows your story, not your parents, not your uncle, not your best friend. Nobody knows your story better than you do. And so be confident in what you're saying and what you're doing. Be relaxed, think about the questions quickly, but then and give a decent answer. So that's kind of getting into interviewing a little bit more. There's another one. And some of this, again, I can make this available to Hernan, and he can share it out. But that's just kind of the ways to put some polish on your resumes. Let's go to another one here.
If I could just add real quick, Dave.
Sure, that'd be great.
If you've never done or filled out like a job for USA Jobs, they actually let you like develop your resume in USA Jobs, so you don't have to have one ready and submitted, basically. So it's pretty helpful, and I didn't know what to experience when I did it, but that's basically what it is it'll take you through like step by step. Okay, well, now we want your past employers, and now we want your references, and like what is your other skills and stuff like that. So it's kind of a long process, but it's also really helpful. And so don't be worried if you haven't seen or done a resume before, because they'll actually walk you through it.
Yeah, there is and we don't require to use it, but there is a skeletal or a kind of a framework there that'll show you, or as you put the information in, probably like in, Derek, you've done it recently, so in a fillable form type of thing, that it starts to spit out the formatting and so forth. You have to watch it, because sometimes the formatting, when you go to look at it as a finished product, it can look kind of funny, but I believe it's fairly well perfected. Sometimes when I've had people such as Derek that were applying send me a resume to look over. And when I look at it, there's a lot of formatting errors, and it's because of how it was sent to me. But going through the system and for them to see it, it does make I think it looks kind of like what I've got pulled up here now. So it's got your name. There's different ways to do this. Some people center it and put it in bold and bigger letters and that, but just make sure that for sure you have your phone and your email, whether you give your address or not, your phone and your email. So there's ways to get a hold of you. These are questions you're going to answer yes or no, or different things within the system. But you always want to have an objective. What are you looking for? What's your hopes, aspirations? What are you looking to do? And then you go into work experience, and this looks kind of like the Gremlins bit this a little bit, because it's a little bit chopped up. But so you want to just lay out your work experience, and how you do it isn't important, just so it flows and it makes sense for somebody to go through and follow. So this is all their work experience. You get down to the bottom, And sometimes, you know, you definitely put in your education, your grade point, what you're pursuing, and when you're going to graduate or expected to. And then you want to put any courses or training related to the job, especially things that are above and beyond, not just, hey, I took Dr. Bennis's soil class or so-and-so's plant class, but that I took, you know, even like something like this, forest health management, that it was a webinar that I attended or something. So your job related skills anymore, it's pretty important. If you can speak Spanish, that's a plus, because we constantly run into more and more people where that's all they speak, or maybe in one of the Asian languages, you know, important as well. We're running into some more of that, which most of them speak broken English, or at least understand it. It's communicating back to us their thoughts that sometimes can be hard. So, and then other skills, you know, everybody's got all this Microsoft Office cadre of things, but if you can do AutoCAD, or if you have skills in GIS, if you have skills in database management, those kind of things, good to bring out. You know, maybe another one is public speaker. There's also the working with your hands kind of things, whether you're, you know, you can build things with your hands, or some of what your hobbies are. Those are good things to put in there. If you have licenses, CPR, or whatever else it is. If you've had awards, and then of course references. Now references, I would say, I always say you want somebody that knows you personally, somebody that knows you professionally, and you know, as an employer, potential employer, I'm going to be looking at, okay, well, you know, if Mary worked for somebody in a business of some sort, it might be more important for me to talk to them about her work experiences, or her promptness and attentiveness to detail, than it would be a personal friend. But you know, search the internet. There's got to be someplace out there a list of questions that are, I mean, I've got a bunch, but I typically don't give those to students. I don't give, well, yeah, I typically don't give them to other coworkers, just as a practice thing maybe, but you know, what are your weaknesses and strengths? What do you do with your free time? What do you do in a challenging situation? Why are you the best qualified? Why should I hire you over somebody else? All good questions, the kinds of things that you need to think about. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of poking around here to find my other presentation.
And Dave, while you do that, do you mind if I share my screen? So I just want the audience to see that, you know, even within the federal resume samples, there are different ways that we do format a federal resume in itself too.
Do I have to unshare, Juan?
Yes, sir.
I don't know how I do that.
Just stop sharing. It should be at the top.
I paused it. I don't see stop, but I see new share. Oh, there it is.
There we go.
There you go.
Thank you, sir. So guys, like I was mentioning here in my comments, even a federal resume, like the traditional private industry resumes, you know, can differ in terms of the information that, you know, or how you enter and format that information. So, you know, in Dave's sample, you know, obviously, you know, the information stays the same, where you have a first and last name, your mailing address, the city, the state, your zip code, your phone number, and then the email address. You know, I prefer certain fonts, you know, your name being in bold, or font size, I should say, you know, followed by the job information, which is the announcement number, the job title, the grade that you're applying for, followed by your education, the name of your institution, your major, your minors, if you have any, your overall GPA. I always advise students that if you have less, or I should say under a 3.0 GPA, don't list it. If it's at a 3.0 or above, you definitely want to list that information. Also, there may be some students, who don't have the practical hands-on experience, but you do have some experience, meaning the academic side. Oftentimes students undersell or don't market those skills enough. So I always advise students to, add that relevant coursework, add the course name if it's applicable to a soil composition or a biological science position with the Nrcs, or the engineering position or environmental science position that you're applying for. And then, of course, enter your experience, your current employer, your supervisor's name. If you give us permission to contact them, because more than likely is we will be contacting your supervisor, just to see if they themselves would give you a good reference. But if you don't give us permission, then we won't contact that supervisor, and we won't hold you against that, right? That won't count against you. And then, the other information, such as the month and years that you worked there, the hours that you worked there, meaning hours per week, your salary, followed by, your leadership and experiences, the organizations that you were a part of, include your honors, and then, your different skill set, ranging from computer skills, certifications, and then the language piece, that's also extremely important. And then, we finalize that with the references and how you should structure that in itself. I will say this: if your resume if your federal resume happens to be 5 pages, just because you have that much experience, it's okay to have a 5-page federal resume. It's not the end of the world if you don't have a 1 or 2-page federal resume. I've seen some federal resumes that are, believe it or not, 15 pages. So, don't get discouraged, but you definitely don't want to oversell yourself, and you don't want to undersell yourself. So, make sure that you have the proper information more than anything, regardless of the structure that you use when it comes to this, because, your federal resume is one of the important pieces of your application. And I will stop sharing, Dave, and turn it over to you.
Susanna has a question, or she has her hand raised.
Yes, I have a question. So in regards of the resume part for education, would we be listing our education previously, if we graduated a year ago and so on, or would you also want the community college, or just like the recent years?
So when you say I recently graduated from high school, from community college, and we're now at a 4-year institution?
From Fresno State.
Okay, so what I would say, since you're currently a Fresno State student, you definitely want to add the current university where you're at. That should be at the top, right?
Okay.
And then that information, followed by the rest of that information, and then below that, you want to add the community college institution where you were at. You definitely don't want to leave that out, because you've just recently transferred to a Fresno State. So you want to include both, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Furthermore, when you put your transcripts in, they're going to want transcripts from both. They're not just going to want the transcript from where you're at now. So you're going to need to take that back from outside of high school, when you first entered a JC or a 4-year college or whatever you chose to go for, community college, put it in there.
And then oftentimes they'll ask for you to submit your unofficial transcripts. So you definitely want to look at that job announcement so that you can distinguish, because there are times when they may ask for the official transcripts. So just make sure that you don't miss that one note.
Yeah, in most cases, it's unofficial for us. It's unofficial until you get selected and are going to offer a job to you. Then we want the official one. But, we realize that costs money and a little more to do to get them. So we only ask for that after we've selected someone. And that's a condition of employment at that point, that you need to turn this in by, you know, they give you a certain amount of time, and then you send that into the HR person that you're working with. So I am not seeing, okay, here's the chat.
Is a high school degree necessary to include on a federal resume, Dave?
Well, you don't really have a degree from high school, but the fact that you graduated in 2012 or 15 or whatever, it's nice to know and kind of where that was at. But it's like 2 lines worth of information, so I don't think it detracts or makes your resume so voluminous that, you know, people won't look at it. But you're not going to go to college if you don't have a high school education. So it's kind of redundant, but I like to see it. You know, the other thing, you know, I'll speak to some of what what Juan said is with grade point averages, I've had people, some of my best students have been people that have had 2.5, 2.2 GPA, and they're not necessarily real proud of it, but if there's a reason or an explanation. One student said, you know, her parents didn't help her at all with college, not the room and board. I mean, if she wanted to live at home with them, fine, but beyond that, no money for car insurance, no money for a car, no money for books, any of that. She had to work, and so consequently her grade point reflected negatively. But very sharp, very bright individual. Just the book doesn't always read what the cover says it is. So I myself don't necessarily look, there's a couple things I don't do. I don't necessarily look where you went to school to put you at a higher rank than anybody else, but I will look at that in the case of going to a school that I've had problem students from, and not just once, but repetitively. And I don't have a blacklist of any school in this state, so but there are a few of them out there nationwide that have, you know, their credibility is accreditation. When you're in engineering school, you got an accreditation, and they're accredited, but barely. So that and GPAs, I don't get too thrown off. I mean, if you have a 1.9 or something, I'm probably going to want some real explanation. You may not get a lot of play, but there's no shame in having a 2.8. It just means you're going to start at a lower pay potentially, but yeah.
So Dave, if I'm a plant science major, or if I'm a biology major, or even environmental science major, you know, one of the sciences, what can I expect to do at the NRCS in terms of internships and some of the duties?
Well, in some respects, it's not that much different than what Derek said. You're going to interact with the people that are in that position full time, and you're going to kind of job share or shadow that person. So you're going to be in the field some, you're going to be in the office some, you're going to use computers a lot to enter data, to write plans, to enter contracts or applications for contracts and things like that. All things that we're going to teach you once you get on board. In terms of what kind of things you're gonna go out to look at a landscape at, you know, whether it's a farm or a ranch out in the hills someplace, a dairy, and you're going to look for what things could be improved to improve the environment. So is there an issue with water quality? You know, manure being stacked on bare dirt creates leachates that go into the ground. Is there an issue with overwatering on an irrigation system where maybe improvements could be made? Is there a situation where they're overgrazing on rangeland, or where if they had water to extend out to the further bounds of their property, would they be better off? Maybe they could even increase their herd size. It's just a matter that without water out there, they can't keep the animals there. So there's a way that we can help them distribute that water better to make better use of the grasses and take better care of the landscape, so that, I mean, to a guy that's a cattle rancher, that land is as important to him as it is anybody. You know, a guy that's growing nuts or crops in the row crops down here in the valley, there's a lot of things machinery wise and everything they have to maintain. Well, these guys got to maintain their water systems and their fences and the health of the plants and so forth within the pastures they have. So you're looking for any place where things are out of balance. And again, your schooling teaches you how to think. After you get out, you have a broad base, and now we're going to use that foundation and build upon it. I don't know if that's a good enough answer, Juan, but kind of what you were looking for, but it's
Yes, sir. No. Very good answer. Now, if I'm a community college student, you know, how competitive will my application be against one for, you know, faced with a 4-year?
I would say there's a tendency for us to go more towards 4 years, but that doesn't necessarily always ring. The fact that you've had community college in your past is of no bearing in my eyes. That's just somebody that's being wise about the money they're spending to get educated. Again, you know, it's like my son goes to Fresno State, and he's always sharing frustrations with me. They don't teach us nothing. I said, they're teaching you how to think. They're not teaching you everything you're going to need to know in life. You got to figure some of that out. But and there's, whether you learn it from some industry professional that works sideline or second job at the College of Fresno City or Clovis Community or whatever else ones are around the area where you're at, doesn't make a difference. Those people sometimes are more practical than, say, a professor that is just teaching you principle. For myself, it really makes no difference. But in terms of how, if I had a pathways or a potential pathway student that was only in JC or community college and one that was in a 4-year college, there's probably a greater likelihood the 4-year college student is going to have a little more of the meat and potatoes of what it is we need, because it's not just math and chemistry and sciences or psychology and some of your electives. That's just, again, teaching you how to learn and broadening your perspectives on things. It's really when you get into a weed identification class or a soils class where you start to look at the properties and characteristics of soils, or an engineering class that looks at the fundamentals of how concrete, or you know, look at a transportation system. Not that's important to us, but that's where the rubber hits the road. So there's probably a little better chance, but I wouldn't be discouraged by that.
Okay, thank you, Dave. And we do have one more question. So are some of the locations around Fresno, or do they vary? And how many hours, you know, does an intern work?
Okay, so I have a presentation, another one that I wanted to share up. So I've got it pulled up. I got to get into the share, no share thing. Here we go. Our program is called Pathways. Interestingly enough, Hernan Maldonado there in the engineering department at Fresno State has, their program is also called Pathways. They're separate, but similar. So the way you get in, this is Pathways is what we call our internship program. That can be for undergraduates, it can be for recent graduates, it can be for people that are continuing into a master's program. And so this fact sheet talks a lot about that. There are things like the number of hours you need to put in. What we typically do, before I just read down through the sheet, what we typically do is we'll start you in the summer, like in June. We'll work you full time for 8 to 10 weeks and 40 hours a week. Probably some potential to earn and bank some credit leave. So basically, Derek could work a 10-hour day today, and in doing so, he might, you know, so he gets the 8 hours to make his 40-hour week, you know, one day of his 40-hour week, but the other 2 hours he sets aside and has a bank account per se, where if he wants to leave early or needs to go to the dentist or something, he can use those hours and not have to take his vacation time. When you start with us as a student, you're going to start earning sick leave and vacation time. We call it annual leave, at the rate of 4 hours every 2 weeks or 2 hours a week. There's a lot of background on that I won't get into about how many and when you have to use it and stuff, or how you got to go about using it. But as a student, you do earn that. You also get we can get insurance, health insurance. You have to pay your share of it, but as a student, most students don't take advantage of it because they are on their parents or something like that. So let's see here. So we start them in the summer. There's an expectation as I go down through this thing. You can get accredited high school, college, 4-year colleges, community colleges, all the different ways you can get in. You have to be enrolled. You have to be going to school full time. On certain circumstances, you may be able to take a semester off for health or some sort of special project or something, but that's all got to be approved. You're expected to maintain a 2.0 grade point average. I don't think if you fall below that, it's automatically being removed from the program, but I think you got a certain amount of time to get that corrected. After your summer, there's a chance, if you're willing, you can work part-time. Derek currently works 2 days a week. His schedule allows him to work 2 8-hour days a week. Some people work maybe 8 hours a week. And it may be broken into chunks of 2 or 4 hours that work around their class schedules and breaks in their class schedule. I guess one asked the question, where are the jobs located? Theoretically, they're located all over the state. We have offices in every county. We have, well, we have an office that covers every county. I have in the territory that I cover, one county office covers 3 counties just because of the lesser demand for our program there, I guess I'd say. In some cases, parts of Tulare and parts of Kern are handled by 2 different administrative areas. I don't handle all of them. Another person in another part of the state handles part of them. And that's got to do more with geography and distance between places and ease of getting to them. So around Fresno, we typically have some internships. Derek will be coming off the end of this semester. And we have, I think there's one being flown for an engineer right now that closes today, for an engineer here in Fresno that would work theoretically under me, but a lot of times I farm them out to the field because my job's more administrative. So there's offices in Visalia that we will place people, Hanford, Madera, Merced, Bakersfield. So it's a matter of, maybe you go to school, I'll use Fresno State, that you go to school as Fresno State, but in the summer months, you may go back home to wherever mom and dad are, or parents, grandparents, whoever you're staying with. And there could be opportunities in those communities as well. It's generally the county seat of a county has an office. Trying to think of a situation where that may not be the case, but generally the county seat, like Fresno is Fresno County seat, or Madera, Merced, the same way. Visalia is Tulare's. So, it's not one for one. Like LA County, we don't really have an office there. We have another office that covers any of the bits of LA County that are still ag that we can help with. So private lands that have resource concerns that are related to what we do. So there is a requirement to be a pathway.
Dave, so I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a biotech major and I want to apply for this, summer internship, the Pathways program with NRCS, is there any chance of me, getting an internship with the NRCS?
So when you look at the job announcements, it's going to say the kinds of things you need to be doing in terms of coursework. In order to graduate, you can graduate, but in order to come to work for us as a soil conservationist, that biotech person, I'm going to guess, will probably not have what it takes. But I also would say that if they've taken enough plants classes, soils classes, natural resource classes, environmental classes, there's a real strong possibility. That's what meets the criteria. It's not what it says on your diploma. Just because it says you're an agronomist or a animal scientist doesn't mean that you're going to qualify to be a soil conservationist. It means that the university gave you a degree by meeting some criteria. But by our standard, there's certain class requirements, so many course hours and such and such and such and such. For Derek or I, it's because we're engineers, it's graduating from an ABET accredited engineering college. And Fresno State has that, Davis, Merced, Bakersfield, CSU Bakersfield, both Cal Polys. Well, the Cal Poly in Pomona, I don't think has much engineering anymore, but they used to. But so did that hit that one, Juan?
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Dave.
So you can work part-time going down through here. After you graduate, we're going to convert you over to, we're going to offer you a permanent full-time position. So Derek just recently went through this. He was offered, I think, 3 different locations. One was north of Sacramento, one was south of Sacramento, and the other one was down here in Visalia. And so, I don't know where Derek's friends or family or whoever he hangs out with, where they congregate or anything. So maybe Stockton, which was one of his offers, would have been appealing to him. Maybe he's, kind of like my son, wants to get out from under the roof of parents, and he just wants to go out and be independent. So living around Fresno is not his idea. So there's flexibility there. We're going to offer, I think Derek got 3 offers.
Yeah.
3 locations. And obviously some of those are in higher rent districts than others. So the pay kind of varies with that. That's all federally established. We have, the Bay Area has a pay rate. Sacramento has another pay rate. LA has a pay rate that's different than, say, Fresno. So that varies, but he was given, I think, a week to make a choice. And I don't know, Derek, you want to speak about that just briefly, or?
Sure, yeah. So it's what Dave's talking about with the conversion here. basically it's a really sweet deal if you get into the Pathways program, because especially if you get in earlier than I did. I got in this past summer, so that's why I have to work full-time or part-time right now to get my 640 hours. But if you're able to get in earlier in your college career and you can do summers, you don't have to work part-time during the semester, you can get those hours in, and then once you're ready to graduate, they'll offer you probably 2 to 3 different positions. It just depends how many people are graduating with you in your state. And so, yeah, I got offered 3 different positions, as Dave said, and just had the opportunity to decide where I wanted to go and where I want to work in that. And so I am staying local as I can be with the positions that are offered to me. But yeah, it was pretty cool, and yeah, excited to move forward with my NRCS career. And it's like, as Dave said, a lot of opportunities come up throughout the state. So if I am looking to move somewhere else, maybe eventually I'll have that opportunity to do so, and it might even be at like a higher pay rate, for example. So it's a pretty good deal if you get into it.
So that kind of leads itself. So Derek's going to graduate in December. Within 120 days, there's paperwork. You have to turn in your transcript that says that Derek was awarded a Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts, whichever it is, in engineering. You know, he's completed the necessary things. Once you turn that in, our people do some paperwork, and you do go through a background check. I mean, Derek knows this. He had to get fingerprinted. He had to answer some questionnaires and probably give some names of people and places he lived and that kind of thing. Just because with us, we're dealing with some people's financial records, and so it's the nature of. It's not the mainstay of what we do, but unfortunately, it's become one of the needles of the eyes of the needle that have to be threaded because we have people's private information. So it's not a big deal as long as you got a clean slate. I mean, traffic tickets are a minor violation here or there for something isn't going to get you thrown out. Lying about it would, but you know, saying that you've never had a misdemeanor would get you thrown out when they find out about it. But if you have one, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get thrown out. So so for Derek, he was talking about this 640 hours that needs to be completed. Once you enter the pathway program, you have to do 640 hours at the student rate of, you know, there's a different pay level, and it ends up being about like one summer. Derek's going to get it knocked out and doing one summer plus a semester of work. We typically are careful about not hiring people too close up to graduation for this program because of this requirement. So if you were coming to us and wanting to apply for pathways and you're graduating in March or May, I mean, there's a good chance you're going to get scrutinized because how are you going to get these hours in? And in some cases, you won't even get consideration. It's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. So it does say down here we can waive some of the hours based on, let's say you worked for the county park or something, and you help with planting trees and you know, irrigating them and taking care of them, or animals, something like that. If it's relevant to the kinds of things we do, we can waive off on some of those hours. So that's where it's important to kind of note on your resumes what your past experience has been, because we can possibly exchange some of that time for some of these 640. I think I'm about out of steam, guys, but I mean, I'm willing to answer questions or do whatever. I can share these with Anon, Juan, and Imelda, these fact sheets and a couple other ones that I have that I didn't get into that are good, just background information. The one thing I would say, when you come to work for the federal government, you will have a job that is well, the NRCS, that's all I can speak to. That's rewarding and challenging. frustrating sometimes. At the first couple years, you're probably not going to get paid maybe what you think you're worth or what you could get elsewhere, but there's stability in that job. You will not have to worry about whether in a year from now your job's still going to be there. After you do 1 year of time, 1 year of employment with us, and that would count from the time you started as a student, you become vested or kind of part of the more permanent RCS employees. So you've got more rights and that sort of thing. And yeah, there could be a furlough or something where they lay people off. In my agency in 30 years, the most they've ever done is had us stay home. Excuse me, I yawned. The most they ever did was had us stay home, but we still got paid for that time when the government was shut down. So I've not seen anybody laid off or furloughed. Versus, oh, we go private sector, we can make a lot more money, but in 6 months, if the work dries up, they may not need you anymore. So after a course of a year, you may not even have made as much as you would have with us in the course of 12 months. It's all a matter of what you want to do. It is rewarding to help other people. We offer monies to private landowners to do things that make sense to protect the environment. And it's rewarding when you can go out and assist a landowner in doing those kind of things. You're muted, Michavo.
That said, no, thank you so much, Dave. Thank you, Derek, for speaking to our students, to folks here today. We muchly appreciate your time. The information that you shared is very helpful in students, getting further insight in terms of the information that's needed to be successful when applying to these pathways programs, internship opportunities that are available with, USDA and Nrcs and throughout the federal government itself. Also, lastly, want to thank our partners at the Laos College of Engineering, Hernan Maldonado, and also our partners at the Jordan College of Ag, Ms. Imelda Dadley, for their support. Thank you all once again for being with us. As mentioned in the chat, we will be sending out the documents that were shared, assuming that Dave here is willing to share with us, and as well as this presentation. I know that that's something that was very sought after here.
The PowerPoint one is like 40 megs. So if somebody really, really wants it and they email you or they email Hernan, I can get it to them or provide it, but it's so big, it's hard. It's kind of hard to move that around on our system a little bit. Sure. The other stuff, yeah, as soon as we're done, I'm going to email it to the both of you guys.
Okay.
And Imelda too.
So then we'll make a note of that too in the email. What they've just shared, being that it's a huge file in itself. Once again, in closing, thank you so much for your time and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.